Alright, what's going on, guys? Today I'll be breaking down the NBA slate for Saturday, March 25th. We've only got a 4-game slate on for this Saturday, but yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, starting off at point guard, your top point guard on today's slate is John Wall. He gets a really good matchup against the Cavs. They really struggle to defend point guards. Kyrie Irving is not a good defender. If you're going to pep at point guard, John Wall is definitely in play on the slate. Even at $50, I definitely think he can get you 50 fantasy points in this matchup. This game should be competitive. And it should be pretty high scoring, so I definitely like John Wall on this slate. I think he can get you 50 fantasy points in return value. Under him, for a little bit cheaper, you got Damian Lillard going up against Minnesota. This isn't that great of a matchup. Minnesota is pretty solid against the point guard. Ricky Rubio has been playing pretty good defense lately, but Dame has just been killing it lately. Even at $44, I definitely think he is in play on this slate. I think he can get you 45 fantasy points in this matchup. This game should be pretty high scoring, and it should be very competitive. So I definitely like Dame as well if you want to pay up for point guard. Like I said, he's been playing very well lately, and he can definitely return value on that $44 price tag. So I like Dame. For a dollar cheaper, you got Kyrie Irving against Washington. This isn't that great of a matchup. Washington is pretty solid against the point guard, but Kyrie has been playing very well lately. In his last 5 games, he's put up 36, 31, 52, 41, and 42 fantasy points. So Kyrie has been very consistent. And it just came out that LeBron is going to be questionable for this game. If LeBron sits, then you're definitely going to want to play Kyrie. He's going to have to carry the offense. So if LeBron is out, then I'm really liking Kyrie. But even if LeBron plays, I definitely think you can target Kyrie on this slate. I think he can get you 40 fantasy points in this matchup and return value. So I like Kyrie, but I really like him if LeBron doesn't play. On the cheaper end, you got Ricky Rubio going up against Portland. If you don't want to pay for point guard, I'm definitely liking Rubio on the slate. Portland really struggles defensively against the point guard. Damian Lillard is not a good defender. And Rubio is pretty cheap at just $35. He only has to get about 35 to 40 fantasy points to return value. And he can definitely do that in this plus matchup against Portland. So I definitely like Rubio. If you don't want to pay up to the top at point guard, you're kind of attacking the mid-range. I like Rubio. I think he can get you 35 to 40 fantasy points in return value. And under Rubio, you got Derrick Rose. Rose is currently a game-time decision for this game at the time I'm recording this video. I do like Rose in this matchup against the Spurs. If there's one place you can attack the Spurs, it's in the backcourt. They do struggle against guards. And Rose is pretty cheap, just $25. He only has to get about 25 to 30 fantasy points to return value. So if D Rose does play, then I definitely like him at the mid-range. I think he can get you 30 fantasy points in this matchup. But be sure to make sure he plays. Like I said, he is currently questionable as I'm recording this video. And yeah, that's pretty much it for point guard. There really aren't many value plays I'm liking here. I think you're either going to be paying up or you're going to attack the mid-range and go with Rubio or D Rose. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard. Alright, your top shooting guard on this slate is DeMar DeRozan. He doesn't get that great of a matchup against Dallas. Dallas does play at a very slow pace. But I'm really intrigued by DeRozan's price tag on Yahoo at just $40. He only has to get about 40 to 45 fantasy points to return value. And even in this slow-paced matchup, I think it is likely that DeRozan can do that. He has been playing very well as of late. He's been crushing value. On his last 2 games, he's put up 64 and 52 fantasy points. I definitely think DeRozan can get you 40 to 45 fantasy points in this matchup, and I like that price tag. So if you want to pay up for a shooting guard, I think DeRozan is definitely in play. On the cheaper end, you got Bradley Beal against Cleveland. I really like Beal in this matchup. Cleveland really struggles against shooting guards. And Beal is pretty cheap on Yahoo at just $34. I definitely think he can get you 35 fantasy points in this matchup, which is good for that price. Beal has been pretty consistent as of late as well, so if you're going to pay up for shooting guard, I like him as well. I definitely think he is in play. CJ McCollum against Minnesota. This is also a very good matchup for McCollum. Minnesota does struggle against shooting guards. And CJ is pretty cheap at just $33. He only has to get about 35 fantasy points to return value, and I definitely think he can do that against Minnesota. Like I said, they struggle against shooting guards. So if you're going to pay up, I do like him. But if you're going to attack that price range, I would probably take Bradley Beal for just $1 more. At the mid-range, you got Seth Curry against Toronto. I'm probably not going to be playing Curry on this slate at $26. I think he's a little bit too expensive. And this isn't that great of a matchup either, so I'm not going to be on Curry. If you need some value, I like Courtney Lee against San Antonio. San Antonio does struggle defensively against the shooting guard. And Lee is pretty cheap on Yahoo at just $13. He only has to get about 20 to 25 fantasy points to return value. So I definitely like Courtney Lee if you need some value on this slate. There really isn't a ton of value plays that are standing out at this moment, but I definitely think Lee is a guy you can target. I think he can get 20 to 25 fantasy points against the Spurs. They do struggle against shooting guards, so I like Courtney Lee if you need some value. And one more value play I like is Allen Crabbe against Minnesota. Crabbe is the minimum price on Yahoo. He only has to get about 20 fantasy points to return value, and he's been doing that lately. He's put up over 20 fantasy points in 3 of his last 5 games, and I definitely think he can get you at least 20 in this matchup against Minnesota. They really struggle against shooting guards, so if you need some value on the slate, I do like Allen Crabbe. He's been playing pretty heavy minutes. He's been playing close to 30 minutes just about every night, and he can definitely return value on just a $10 price tag. So I like Crabbe for value. I think he is in play. And yeah, that's pretty much it for shooting guard. Let's go ahead and move on to small forward. All right, your top small forward on this slate is LeBron James. He gets a really good matchup against Washington. They really struggle against small forwards. LeBron is very expensive, though, at $57. He has to get close to 60 fantasy points to return value, but I definitely think he can do that today against Washington. Like I said, they struggle against small forwards, but like I said earlier, LeBron is currently questionable at the time I'm recording this video, so if he plays, you can definitely target him on the slate. He's the top stud on the slate to pay up for. I definitely think he can get you 50 fantasy points in this matchup, but like I said, he is currently questionable, so be sure to take note of that. And if LeBron is out, then I really like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. There's probably going to be 2 guys that I target if LeBron doesn't play. Kawhi against New York. This is a really good matchup for Kawhi, but I'm not going to be playing him on Yahoo at $50. He has to get almost 50 fantasy points to return value, and I don't think it's likely that he can do that. So I'm not going to be playing Kawhi on the slate. Now, if he's cheap on other sites, then I'm really liking him, but I won't be playing him on Yahoo at $50. That's way too expensive. Carmelo against San Antonio. I'm not going to be targeting Melo on the slate, even if he does play. He is currently questionable, but this is a really bad matchup. The Spurs are really good against the small forward. Kawhi is a very good defender, so I'm not going to be on Melo. For a dollar less, I like Andrew Wiggins against Portland. Portland does struggle defensively against a small forward, and Wiggins' price is very cheap on Yahoo at just $34. He only has to get about 35 fantasy points to return value. I definitely think he can do that against Portland. Like I said, they struggle against small forwards. So if you don't want to pay up to the top for LeBron or Kawhi, I like Wiggins at the mid-range. I think he is in play. And if you need some value at small forward, I like one guy at the minimum price, and that's Shabazz Muhammad. With B Elites out for the season, Muhammad's really had to step up and play heavy minutes. He's been playing at least 20 to 25 minutes just about every night. And if he gets them at least 20 minutes, he shouldn't have a problem paying off that $10 price tag. He only needs about 20 fantasy points to return value. And I definitely think he can do that against Portland. Like I said, they really struggle against small forward. So if you need some value on this slate, I like Shabazz Muhammad. I think he can return value on that cheap price tag. And yeah, that's pretty much it for small forward. Let's go ahead and move on to power forward. All right, your top power forward on the slate is Kevin Love. I really like Love in this matchup against Washington. They really struggle against power forwards. But Love has been playing with a minutes restriction. In yesterday's game against Charlotte, he was on a 25-minute limit restriction. But he wound up playing 28 minutes. Now, I really like Kevin Love if his minutes restriction is lifted, or as long as he gets about 30 minutes, especially if LeBron doesn't play. Like I said, LeBron is currently questionable. So if LeBron is out, then I really like Kevin Love. But he has been playing with a minutes restriction, so make sure that is lifted before you play him. If it is lifted, then I really like him at just $38. I definitely think he can get you 40 fantasy points. Kristaps against San Antonio. This isn't that great of a matchup against San Antonio, but if Carmelo does not play, then I'm really liking Porzingis at just $31. Even in the bad matchup with Melo out, Porzingis is going to have to do a lot more offensively, and he's going to play heavy minutes as well. I definitely think he can pay off that $31 price tag if Melo is out, but if Melo plays, then I don't think I'm going to target Porzingis. So that's going to be a wait and see for me. I like Porzingis if Melo is out, but if Melo plays, I don't think I'm going to be on him. At the mid-range, I really like LaMarcus Aldridge in that same game. The Knicks really struggled defensively against the power forward, and Aldridge has been killing it lately, and he is very underpriced on Yahoo at just $27. He only has to get about 30 to 35 fantasy points to return value, and he can definitely do that in this matchup against the Knicks. Like I said, they really struggle against power forwards. So if you're attacking the mid-range, LaMarcus Aldridge would definitely be a guy I target. He's probably going to be the power forward that I play on this slate. I definitely think he can return value on that cheap $27 price tag, so I like LaMarcus Aldridge. Yeah, that's pretty much it for power forward. There's not really many guys I like here. I think you're either going to be paying up for Love or Porzingis, or you're going to go to the mid-range and take LaMarcus Aldridge. I don't really like Harrison Barnes against Toronto. That's going to be a pretty bad matchup for him. He's going to have to go against Ibaka. And I don't like Ibaka in the slow-paced matchup against Dallas, so I'm not going to be on them. And Markieff has been struggling lately. I don't like Gorgie Dang against Portland, and don't like any of these other guys. So I think you're either going to be playing Kevin Love, Porzingis, or LaMarcus Aldridge at power forward. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to center. All right, your top center on this slate is Karl-Anthony Towns. He gets a pretty solid matchup against Portland. They're not that good defensively against the center. I really like Cat on the slate if you can find the value to fit him in. There isn't much value on this slate, so I definitely think it's going to be hard to fit in at least 2 studs. You're probably going to only be able to play 1. But if you want to play Cat, he is definitely in play. Even at $50, he can get you 50 fantasy points in this matchup, which is good for that price tag. Cat's been very consistent lately, so if you're going to pay up for center, he is definitely in play. For $20 cheaper, I really like Jusuf Nurkic in that same game. Karl-Anthony Towns is not a good defender, and Nurkic is pretty cheap at just $30. He only has to get about 30 to 35 fantasy points to return value, and he's been doing that lately. He's hit value in 5 straight games. So if you don't want to pay up to the top for Cat, I definitely like Nurkic for $20 less. Like I said, Karl-Anthony Towns is not a good defender. I definitely think Nurkic can pay off that cheap $30 price tag, so I like him if you're not going to pay up. Also like Dirk Nowitzki at $8 cheaper. Nowitzki is usually a guy I don't like to play, but it is a 4-game slate, so you're going to have to take some stands. And Nowitzki's actually been playing pretty well lately. He's paid off his price tag in 4 of his last 5 games. At only $22, he has to get about 25 fantasy points to return value. And I definitely think he can do that. The only thing I worry about when rostering Nowitzki is his minutes. He usually never plays heavy minutes. But he can still pay off that cheap price tag even if he only gets about 25 to 30 minutes, which he should get that amount. So if you don't want to pay up, you want to take the mid-range, I like Dirk Nowitzki. I think he is in play. And then if you need some value at center, I like Nerlens Noel against Toronto. Noel is only a guy I would roster in tournaments, though, just because his minutes are so inconsistent. But when Noel gets the minutes, he can put up 30 to 40 fantasy points. As you can see in his game log, his minutes are very inconsistent. But when he does get the minutes, he can definitely put up the fantasy points. So I like Noel if you need a center for tournaments. He should be low owned on this slate, and he definitely does have good upside in this matchup. The only thing I worry about are his minutes, so I wouldn't play him in cash. I definitely think he is too risky, but for tournaments, he does have really good upside. So I like Noel if you need some value at center. And yeah, that's pretty much it for center. I'm going ahead and give you guys my starting 5 for tonight. Alright guys, so this is my starting 5 for tonight's slate on Saturday, March 25th. If you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT or leave a comment on this video and I'll be sure to answer your question. If you guys want to get my lineups, follow me on Twitter and send me a message and I'll get you a lineup for whatever site you play on. Whether you play on Yahoo, FanDuel, or DraftKings, I give out lineups for those 3 sites. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. If you never want to miss out on a video, then please be sure to click the bell icon next to my YouTube name, and you'll get notifications every time I upload. So if you never want to miss out on a video, please be sure to do that. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.
Are you up there? Can you hear me? I know I fucked up. It's clear, see. I'm 22, but I don't act like it clearly. And all this shit is a mirage. I'm just rapping for a cause, the life, the fame, the lights, the game. We break the laws, don't like to change. Wanna win you back, but I hate to lose. I know that you're the one, but it's hard to choose.